We're fortunate to live in a country we believe to be blessed with plenty, but our own myths can sometimes stand in the way of reality. Lack of reliable access to a sufficient quantity of affordable, nutritious food is called food insecurity, and 1 in 10 households in Vermont can be said to experience it. Once a month, volunteers from food programs in the counties converge in the parking lot of the St. Albans American Legion to meet a delivery from the Vermont Food Bank. Through the Vermont Food Bank, local donations, Act 148, and Healthy Roots Gleaning, there is enough food to go around. The problem is one of the last mile. How to get it finally into the hands of the people who need it. Almost everyone you see here is a volunteer. With over 1 million pounds of food handled and better than 1 in 10 families in the county served each year, Northwest Family Foods is the only organization able to direct paid staff to this effort. This tremendous and crucial undertaking bears on a very fragile point of volunteerism.
Yeah, to me, the reality of hunger in Vermont is that it exists, and that even though, if you read the Wall Street Journal, the economy is getting a lot better, hunger is not getting better in Vermont. We're not making a lot of progress. And, you know, what the food bank does and what our wonderful network partners like Northwest Family Foods do is so important to keeping people going and making sure that families and kids have some food and proper nutrition. But really, it's an economic issue.
There are 10 food shelves in Franklin and Grand Isle counties that are opened on a regular basis. Some only several times a month, others several days a week, and one, Northwest Family Foods, which is open daily. Because of limited resources, local food shelves prefer to serve residents in the area in which they're located, but none will turn anyone away. Northwest Family Food serves households in all the towns of each county. In addition, some area churches are able to provide food on an on-call emergency basis. These pin maps show the distribution of households and the percent of town populations served by Northwest Family Foods. Because services of other area food shelves are not shown, the actual numbers are greater. The majority of households that use the food shelf are working families. They have income, but not always enough. Some use the program on nearly a weekly basis, but many will see only a few times a year, when an unexpected expense upends the monthly budget, when an absence cuts into the paycheck, or when the kids are home and school lunches are not available. Food programs are an important part of many households' strategy for managing on a tight budget. The Vermont Food Bank provided over 850,000 pounds of food last year, delivering once a month directly to area partners. As a result of Act 148, Vermont's recycling law, supermarkets now allow programs to pick up perishable foods removed by the store from their shelves, but whose expiration date has not passed. Meat, deli items, dairy, and fresh fruits and vegetables are now available to food shelf clients in varieties and quantities not seen before. Last year, Healthy Roots Gleaning Program, supported by Northwestern Medical Center, led a group of volunteers in gleaning over 10,000 pounds of produce from fields and moved it along the rescue food chain for distribution to area households. In addition to our site in St. Albans, Northwest Family Foods operates remote sites in Richford, Alberg, and Isle-Lamont, and, working with Hunger Free Vermont's Hunger Free Grand Isle initiative, has partnered with a number of agencies in working to overcome the unique barriers to service which the islands present. Food is constantly on the move across the counties through both formal and informal networks. The goal is to identify sources of surplus and match them to places of need. But a lack of resources can exaggerate the distance between the two, leaving some opportunities barely within reach. Consider the challenge faced by Healthy Roots.
So this is Healthy Roots Gleaning Program. This is our second season here in Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Last year during our pilot season, we gleaned over 10,600 pounds of food from local farms, and all the food that we harvested would otherwise be unfit for market, mostly just due to beauty standards at the store. So all this food farmers were unable to sell. So we came to the fields with volunteers, helped harvest it, and then we distributed it to 18 charitable food sites throughout Franklin and Grand Isle counties. So those include food shelves, soup kitchens, community meal sites, anywhere serving vulnerable populations. So this year we're hoping to double that amount and reach 20,000 pounds. We think we'll be able to do it. There was a recent study done by Salvation Farms that conducted a statewide study of the amount of food wasted on Vermont farms, and they found over 14 million pounds of food, and within Franklin and Grand Isle counties there's over 700,000 pounds of food grown here that doesn't end up on a plate essentially. So our goal is to help reduce food waste and also address hunger in our communities. So today we're out here at the Pommy-Collet Fields in beautiful Grand Isle, Vermont, and we are here in the peas, and they've just moved on from this planting of peas. There's 4 rows that we're just going through to help just clean it out so they can kind of till them in and move on. And then we're also going to be harvesting some greens as well that they're just a little bit bigger, about to bolt, just totally edible and nutritious, just not perfect for market. So the needs for our program is that transportation is a really big issue for us. Our program doesn't have a vehicle as of quite yet, so I'm operating out of my small Prius. So that's a big barrier in trying to move thousands of pounds of food around 2 counties in Vermont. So we're very reliant on volunteer labor and people being able to use their vehicles as well to help schlep food around.
In order to meet the demand, each day our van is on the road picking up food from local markets, from donors, and often from the Vermont Food Bank in Barre. Every donation is typed and each pound weighed. Every can, all dairy, and each item of prepared food is checked for expiration date. Produce is carefully examined, culled, cleaned, sorted, and then set on display.
3 people.
I think you're nuts.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
On average, 2.5 tons of food pass over the loading dock each week to be given the same close examination. Staff and volunteers work throughout the morning to prepare the market for opening at 1 o'clock.
What are those? Oh, yeah, sometimes you put them on a...
I got 14 boxes today. Robert, are we going to get a new freezer to replace the broken one?
We serve over 2,000 households on a regular basis, with 30 to 50 families seen each day. About half are households of families who reside in towns outside of St. Albans. Within those households live over 10% of the bi-county population. Households can shop 3 times a month, but no one who states the need for food will be denied regardless of how many times they may have visited. On average, each cart leaving Northwest Family Foods contains about 60 pounds of food. Not all food is free. We spend about $1,500 a month on purchases. Northwest Family Foods is supported through grants from the United Way, the Hale Foundation, Ben & Jerry's, the Tarrant Foundation, and a small army of local donors, many of whom give on a regular monthly basis. The last mile we've been looking at in the chain of distribution for charitable food is almost entirely the work of volunteers. Most are seniors. It's as much a celebration of the civic spirit of our communities as it is evidence that the problem of food insecurity is still a long way from being solved. The system we have today is the last remnant of a social service model that dates back to Tudor England in the 15th century and the English Poor Laws. With regards to social support for vulnerable populations, the increase in national wealth and growth in a sense of responsibility have created institutions to ensure basic needs. But charity food has lagged behind and has little changed since the days of the poor farms. Here is the report of Matthew Quinlan, overseer of the poor in Rutland from the late 1880s. The last poor farm in Vermont, located in Sheldon, closed in the early 1960s. Many people are working on food insecurity in Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Their contributions are varied, creative, and unique. Last year, one of them, Natalie LaRoque, completed a major work, a mural at Northwest Family Foods, the food pantry program of Franklin and Grand Isle Community Action. Referencing the central figure of the fountain in Taylor Park and the abundance she symbolizes, Natalie drew on her own experiences to produce a major work that captures both the spirit and the landscape we rely on to sustain us.
The woman in the foreground is pretty much a good representation of a few things. One is the sharing, because that water is what's being and keeping the gardens growing and providing the food. When I was going through a really tough time and losing my job and my whole life situation changed and I needed help, and I came and they helped me. And so when this opportunity came, I didn't want to miss it, because it was an opportunity for me to share some of what I have back. I thought that was pretty neat to have that chance.